Nigel Farage joins us now from London, where you too have had the protests, and there's been a much tougher edge than some of the ones that have happened here, even at the Opera House.
Well, yes, I mean, I think the words that were uttered at the Opera House were perhaps the vilest that we've heard anywhere around the world. But I think what happened in London on Saturday with 100,000 people on the streets was different in the sense that, yes, of course, they were shouting jihad, they were shouting curse to the Jews, and being allowed to do this, which is totally astonishing. But it was the intimidatory atmosphere. It was the real difficulty that the police had in dealing with a lot of very aggressive young men. I tell you what, to anybody that told us 20 years ago that all diversity was good, the more people we allowed in from different cultures, the richer and better our country would be. Well, have a look at what happened last Saturday. And it, you know, I don't want to be too critical of the police because I get how difficult it was for them. But we're living in a world of complete double standards because, you see, there were two young lads turned up on Saturday holding an English cross of St George. And the policeman goes over to them and says, now, no racist language, please. Yeah. As if, because you've got the English, because you've got the English flag, you're necessarily going to be a bad dude. And these were just a couple of lads having a bit of fun. Well, they were, you know, taking a bit of a risk. And there was also supposed to be a march in a place called Golders Green in North London, which is the epicentre of the London Jewish community. And the police advised the local Jewish community that that march shouldn't go ahead. So what we're beginning to see is something of a surrender where radical Islam can voice its name in the streets. But in Berlin, I don't know whether you've seen this, Paul.
This is huge.
In Berlin, violent scuffles with the police. And just sort of think about this. In the country in 1945 that said never again, and with extremely good reason, Jewish houses having Stars of David painted on their front door. And Schulz, the Chancellor, responded in an interview in Der Spiegel, which was published yesterday, by saying we're going to have to start with deportations. So there are some signs that some governments are going to get tough, but the problem is, since 2015, when millions have crossed the Mediterranean in those open boats, and since Angela Merkel and the European Commission said everybody is welcome, we now have some very, very big populations, you know, numbered in their millions, who are, you know, instinctively, tribally taking the Hamas side in what is going on in the Middle East. Europe has built up for itself simply the most enormous problem going ahead.
And the incredible thing, while the world is at this tinderbox right now, we have this bloke in charge of the United States who crumbles before our very eyes. I'm frightened that he is the one who's supposedly going to be able to pull every lever and create peace in our time.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, the guy is a complete duffer. He is senile, let's just call it what it is. And he is also very responsible for much of what has happened. He was the vice president when the Iran nuclear deal was done. It freed up tens of billions of dollars for the Iranian regime. All they had to do was promise they wouldn't develop nuclear weapons. Well, guess what? They've gone ahead developing nuclear weapons, and they've used that free money to fund Hamas and Hezbollah, and Biden is directly responsible for that catastrophic policy error. It was Trump afterwards, of course, who brought in the Abraham Accords to start to bring Arab countries together with Israel in peace pacts, very successful. Saudi Arabia was on the verge of doing something, and frankly, you know, Biden's visit to Israel, the fact that other leaders wouldn't see him, I thought was very, very significant. And then on the plane going back, he could barely utter a word. So, yeah, you know, the leader of the free world does not inspire great confidence.
But that's all right. The B-52s are playing when our Prime Minister's there in the next couple of days. That'll solve everything. Nigel, thank you. Do appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week and hopefully for a little bit longer.